Hello and welcome to another Friday video. It is Friday, December 2nd, 2016, and this is the Friday video of the week. Big announcement this week, and that is that if any of you guys have been following me for a while, you've probably noticed that I differentiate myself from a lot of other trainers in the market in that I tend to gravitate towards hardware. There's a lot of people who teach software, and they do it very well. But I notice a lot of people, because it's a little bit harder to actually produce videos with hardware, with framing and all that stuff. I think it's a little easier for a lot of people to do software training. So anyway, I haven't done it for a long time, but a lot of people have said, "Hey, can you do some training on DAWs?" And so I have started that, and my very first one is Reason. Reason 9 has come out recently, and so I have a brand new training course on Reason, which happens to be up on my monitor right here. So if you go to our website, underneath Browse Our DVDs, there's a new category there called DAWs, and Reason is done now. Pro Tools is the next one. I'll probably do a Logic after that, probably Ableton Live, a few other ones are right there. So keep an eye out for all of those. I'm really proud of them because I think it's more of a conversational approach. When you go to like lynda.com and things like that, there's a lot of training where there's kind of a narrator saying, under the Preferences tab, you will find a number of options and all this kind of stuff, where in my training it's more like, hey, let's go underneath the preferences, and under the options is the latency slider. And if you've ever had any clicks or pops, it's probably because your latency is too short. Set it as short as possible until you can nudge it back, and then so that way you won't have any delays when you're recording live, blah blah blah. It's more like you're inviting me over to your place and we can go through your DAW at kind of a conversational pace. Now, I was thinking about the very first time I taught someone a DAW, and they weren't called DAWs back then, they were just called sequences. And I used to work in a little music store in Southern California called Nadine's Music. And so I used to make a little money on the side going out and teaching people various pieces of gear, but I hadn't really been, the Mac scene had only just really kind of started out. And the Mac guru in our store was Mike Prince, who I know to this day. If you're watching, Mike, love you, mate. You've been a good friend for a long time, nearly 30 years. And so he was the kind of the guru right there, but I don't think he was in that day. And so here's what happened. I kind of knew about how to use computer sequences and things like that. They didn't record audio in them. They were just sequences to play your external MIDI instruments and drum machines or whatever. And so being in Hollywood, a lot of famous people would come in. I come from Adelaide, South Australia, so in our music store, the most famous guy came in would probably be the local piano bar guy at the Hilton in the city. I mean, that's the biggest account in Adelaide. And so anyway, I was in Nadine's. It's a pretty cool story. I'm a massive Earth, Wind and Fire fan. Grew up on it. I've learnt all my early bass playing along to Earth, Wind and Fire records. So Philip Bailey walks in. And if you don't know who Philip Bailey is, Google it. He's the guy that saying reasons, reasons, except probably 2 octaves higher than I can sing it. So he comes in and I'm completely starstruck. But I'm playing it real cool, like, oh yeah, hi, a random customer, how can I help you? And he said, is there anybody here that can teach me opcodes Vision? It wasn't even Studio Vision back then. And so I completely fudged the truth and said, yeah, I know that really well. I didn't know it at all. So he basically hired me, and he said, come by my place in about a week's time. So I took a Mac home, I studied it, I went to work on knowing every part of opcodes Vision, which was the kind of premier sequencing tool right there. So for 2 months, I went over and I was personally hired by Philip Bailey, to go to his home. I mean, I'd be teaching his stuff. His wife would bring in lunches, and we'd hanging out like it's no big deal. But inside, I'm going, oh my God, this is Philip Bailey. This is, and to pick your favorite band as a kid. Imagine, you know, if it was, you know, Aerosmith. Imagine being hired by Tyler, you know, or the Stones, or, you know, whatever your favorite band is. That Earth, Wind & Fire may mean nothing to you, but to me it was so massive. Anyway, so I go over there and I'm teaching him for like 2 months, and he's actually paying me to go over and hang out with my idol. Anyway, that was the very first time that I started teaching DAWs. It's been nearly 30 years since I've done that. I've done bits and pieces, but the very first one, it's over 4 hours long, is on Reason 9. There's a bunch of new stuff there. And if Reason 9 isn't your DAW, put down your comments what DAW you'd like to do some training in. But it's winter over here in the Northern Hemisphere. And so I'm going to just hunker down in this winter and just do a bunch of these software tutorials. So thanks for listening. Hope that wasn't too self-indulgent about that story, but to me it was kind of a turning point in my life, kind of realizing, wow, I may be from this little town in Australia, but I do know this stuff, and if I don't know it, I learn it. I just devour manuals. And, you know, maybe I can make a living out of being the tech guy in this, you know, kind of music industry, and things, you know, worked out from there. So anyway, we will see you next Friday. That'll be the 9th. And I'm not sure what the subject is there, but I've got a whole week to work that out. We'll see you next time. Make it a great weekend, and ciao for now.